Hello, Samadan here, and this is it. This is the week that Legendary started. Not that I've really had any sales just yet, but it is the time for headline gold making news where people just make millions and millions of gold very, very quickly. It's been all culminating to this point. We had it with 9.1, we had it with the original release on Shadowlands. Like it or not, the Legendary system has been what has really spearheaded a huge amount of gold shifting throughout the economy. That said, there's plenty of other ways to make gold with the Crafter's Mark gear that's been really solid throughout the expansion, plus all the enchants and potions and food and bits and pieces, so it's not all legendaries, thankfully, because I'm not really a fan of it, to be honest. So before we get into the Wowhead Weekly summary this week, I'll go through what I've been doing in terms of gold making on my characters and what kind of sales I've had so far. So let's swap over to the scene and let's have a look at Samadan's recent sales. And okay, some interesting things here. 15,000, a couple of light step hoof plates, 13,000 for 2 of them, some food, a few enchants. So that's not too bad, really. 15,000. You can see here my gold, 230,000. I don't have any gold. Legendaries are really, really expensive. Let's see where we're at with our characters. So Samadan has got to Honoured with Enlightened, so that's my first character to Honoured. So I've gotten through and I've done Crafter's Mark gear. So with my Crafter's Mark gear, I've got the rank 7 legendaries here. And what I've done with my Novice Crafter's Mark for the fresh level 50s, and I'm going to put the speed enhancement, the Progenitor Essentia, the air sails, I'm going to put that on those. I have to craft these manually at the moment because TSM doesn't really cover those at the moment. And then with the 233 gear with the Crafter's Mark 4, I've got a hollow to that. I haven't quite gotten to the 262 gear because the Progenitor Essentia is really expensive and I can only really afford to put it on my rank 7s, of which I haven't even got them all listed just yet anyway. I've only got about 2 or 3 at rank 7, so that's my main focus at the moment. We'll see if we get any of those eye-watering high figures. What I'll do is I'll just go through my mailbox and see if there's anything at the bottom here to add to this. Okay, so here's the end of the mailbox, and there's no legendary sales here, but what's really encouraging is some transmog items are coming through quite nicely. The Mooncloth robe there, Cindercloth pants, vest, and so I'm really, really glad that I've got all of my base set of items that I just list anyway. So this is a nice sign of a healthy market with lots of players coming back and not just doing high-end end content. You know, people are playing alts, they're returning to the game, they are collecting up transmog for whatever reason. Shadowy Mask, there's another one there for 7,000, plus some enchants, obviously good solid sellers throughout. So for me, that's a really healthy economy, and I like the fact that my diversity is at least feeding me some gold. So I may not get the high ticket numbers of the legendary sales. It's really going to be down to pot luck on that front. I'm not getting into the cancel scan game. I will list my auctions on. If they sell, then great. I'm not going to just sit here and keep cancel scanning. That's just not for me. It's not enjoyable. So what I'll do is I'm going to carry on. I've got my other 3 characters to get through to Honoured. So currently, if we look at my characters here, so I'm just going through, ticking away at the big ones that I can. So my Dual Crafter Engineer, Elmorte and Earthen here, my Blacksmith and my Leather Worker. So just focusing on the armor crafts really. I want to get everyone up to Honoured at least each. So these 3 are on their way. They'll probably within the next week or 2 be able to get up to that. They're not as high up here on Enlightened as Samadan here, but ticking through quite nicely. What's nice to see is the reservoir anima is looking really healthy at the moment, so if I choose to do mission tables and make some gold that way, I'm in a good position there. Getting renown is really easy now. These are both at 80, and El Morte will very quickly get up to 80 just through doing the actual campaign itself here in Zereth Mortis. So if you haven't got your renown up, that's a really useful way to just get up to 80. But so far, collecting recipes, getting up to Honoured with each of these 4 characters, and then seeing what I can get with sales, see what I can do with the Progenitor enhancements, see if I can sell a few of the Crafter's Mark gear. That I think is going to be my main market. If I manage to get some legendary sales as well, then I'll start feeding that back into trying to level up more legendaries just so that I've got the full set by the end of the expansion. So that's where I'm at, that's my goals at the moment. Quite happy, really enjoying the game, really enjoying having the speed that I have. I'm up to 322% here, so that's really amazing, just being able to run around speed set wise, and all 4 of my characters can now go at over 300% mounted speed, which for me is really, really enjoyable because it's a big zone and it's nice to be able to just run around and get to all the places I want to get. Right, so let's talk about the Wowhead blog and what's been going on with all the high ticket sales that you can see here. So this is issue number 218. So we're here at 9.2. The final big phase for gold makers. This patch came to fruition with the ability to craft the rank 7 legendaries. Now, I may not have had huge amounts of sales myself, but others in the gold making community have had massive sales. Those that were prepared have been able to reap the rewards. Hikon's here has amazingly surpassed 1 billion gold in sales and 339 million in profit. And I know other prominent gold makers have been getting similar success, if not these huge numbers, but getting over 100 million is amazing. Just even having just over 1 million in a mailbox, these are numbers we haven't really seen before. It's all been because everything's condensed up to this point. It's been really squeezing the market. And so it's basically a culmination of a perfect storm of high demand, costly to enter, and a limited market, which basically means that everyone wants these items. They're willing to pay huge amounts of gold for it. Those that can make it have invested massive amounts of gold to do it, and only they can make these things, and therefore they can just set their prices. So the focus really is on high ticket legendary sales for those that want to make the huge amount of money, but then they've invested a huge amount of money. The figures, the inflation's just gone up and up and up, which is lovely to see for headline numbers and things like that, but it's not necessarily what the average player might be able to do. Thankfully, there's ways you can feed into the system, so you can farm materials, or you can do what I'm doing in terms of other markets, old world content. It doesn't have to all be Shadowlands content, and you can still make some sales, enough to make a token, depending on what your goals are, of course. So this is wonderful to see. And as I say here, the system favours those with access to a lot of gold, so it's not easy to get into unless you already have an established gold making method. So like myself, I got up to 5 million gold, invested it into legendaries. Whether I'll see that return or not, I'm not sure. A bit too little, too late, perhaps in my case. But those that got in straight away at the beginning, invested their gold, reinvested their gold, were able to then capitalise on it. It also highly encourages repeated cancel scanning of the auction house, because people have competing for a very, very small amount of items, so you're not going to hit the limit of items when you come to cancel scanning. You could literally just take all the rank 7 legendaries on one character, cancel, list, repeat, and that may be the only way to get sales. That's not a market I really want to compete with. For me, it's just not fun. And maybe this is a product of the system as to how they have it with the auction house at the moment. I'm not sure. The design of the legendary system, I think, could do with some tweaking, certainly in future versions of World of Warcraft. Mantheus has got a really nice video calling this the golden cake, and going through all the different factors that have been contributing to this to make this a golden cake that's basically the recipe for gold making, the way you can make lots and lots of gold. Whether this is by design or simply the product of the system, I'm not really sure, but as a side note, I wonder how many tokens have been purchased with real money in order to get the gold to buy these legendaries. As you can see, loads of stuff kicking off in my sales at the moment, but not actually anything with current content at the moment. Well, shaded halving is, but white linen shirt, white swashbuckler shirt. Obviously, these aren't really high numbers or anything like that, but these cost nothing to make anyway, so that's almost pure profit on both of those. But it's lovely to see sales coming through. For me, what this really shows me is that there are active players enjoying the game and buying things on the auction house, which is more than I can ask for on my server. So getting back to the blog, so that's the legendaries situation as it is at the moment. We could probably do with a deep dive discussion about how this has all come about and how it works as a system and how it compares to other systems in the past, and why there's such huge numbers in terms of the gold required for this and the gold that's therefore made with this. But if you don't want to get into the legendary market itself, there's plenty of ways to at least feed into that, if nothing else. The Progenitor Essentia is really expensive at the moment, and those that are making the legendaries are happy to scoop it up at whatever price. It was quite cheap to start off with, like 8,000, 9,000, when there wasn't really a use for it. And then it steadily increased in quantity, you can see here, because there was nothing really to do. Then you see this sharp fall here, which is basically as soon as the rank 7 legendaries were available, and you can see here the price has gone up high, 40,000 there, and then it's steadily gone down to about 30,000 here, and with a steady quantity here you can see just working through. So it's probably going to settle down around sort of maybe between 30 and 15,000, I would say, or a steady decline depending on whether there's any buffs to the drop rate or anything like that. So the Progenitor Essentia is a slight bottleneck here. So if you are looking to make some gold and just need enough for a token or something like that, you could easily make enough just trying to farm this. Student Albatross has a great video here going through how to get hold of this, whether it's going through doing herbalism, mining, or looking for treasures and things like that. Goes through a few details of the things you need to unlock to increase your chances of getting that and the buffs you might need. So really worth a look going through this video. So I highly recommend that as well. There's other ways you can feed into this market, not just the Progenitor Essentia. It can be the new ore, the skinning materials, the new cloth. All of this is in high demand at the moment. And there's always plenty of other ways to make gold as well, depending on what you find fun. Now moving on to the news, and lovely news is the Brutosaur's back. It disappeared from the black market auction house ever since July the 10th last year, and it was not intentional, I don't think, and for whatever reason, what with the 9.2 update, they seem to have fixed it because the Brutosaur started appearing again, and so that's amazing. The TSM team have confirmed that it's available on several realms. The thing to note though, it is going for gold cap every time it's appeared, and it goes quite quickly. So really, if you haven't got the Brutal yet and you really want it, you're going to need 10 million gold on possibly several servers, and try and catch it on the black market auction house on that realm whenever you can. And that's a lot of gold, so it's nice to see that back as a possibility of getting it, even though it is really expensive. I wonder if there's going to be any other big gold sinks come 10.0. It'll be nice, I think, to have something like player housing at that point. I think that would be a fantastic way for us to spread the market in terms of crafters and buyers alike, rather than focusing on something like this legendary system. So in terms of other gold making methods, Wowhead has come up with a nice set of TSM strings for the new battle pets that are in 9.2. So these are split into the base items, the level 1 with the 3 rarities, and then the level 25 ones as well. Billis Nixia used to do a load of these and has a really comprehensive set of TSM pet strings there. So it's nice to see this carried on with 9.2 as well. So thanks for putting those together. If you are interested in battle pet flipping, we covered the topic by Girl Goblin in her blog post back in the wrap up 215. So if you'd like to get into those markets, have a look there. Now, in terms of other topics, I love ones like this. New people getting into gold making and asking for advice, because for me this solidifies how lovely the gold making community is, and everyone chips in with their opinions and their guidance and trying to help people who are looking to get into gold making. So I've included this one down here. Someone who is basically, they never gotten into gold making, they say they're not very good at it yet, and then they've got 150,000 gold currently, and where should I start? They're on a high pop server, max level leather worker, no other professions level, so what should you start with? So the key here is we've got a leather worker, so maybe professions is the way to go here. The suggestions here is basically you started, Kitty Sloth here was the same position, had 100,000 and made like 30 million over the course of a year, playing quite a bit, which is pretty amazing to be honest. Big thing that people spend money on is full armor sets for their alts. I certainly get that. I'm still selling the basic shrouded cloth sets, and then the different Crafter's Mark sets are really good, solid, steady sellers. So basically here the Crafter's Mark and the starter armor, people can wear at 50 and sell those. So there's a good market there that's not legendaries. And then obviously here the latest rec grind that gives you access to the new ones, which is what I'm working on at the moment. Recommend that one. And this is basically to get their alts up to the right item level so they can start heroic dungeons quickly. And then there's some good advice here in terms of getting your materials cheap, looking at the Undermine Journal, trying to make it as profitable as possible. And then furthering on, if you've got multiple characters, doing this on plate, leather, cloth and mail and jewel crafters, which is what I've got going with my 4 characters. So they have 1 character here. The way you expand that is doing all the professions and doing it with more characters. Diversify your markets that way. Again, this is not making money from legendary items. This is just expanding on what you have without having to invest hundreds and hundreds of thousands, because not everyone has that. And then here, you've got to find where there is a lot of demand and make yourself able to produce them cheap and put them on the market for as much as possible. This is old world as well as current content. There's a whole spread of different things. It's just finding where the demand is on your particular server, selling those things, and if they sell, then make more of them and keep on going. It's a lot of work, and you need to think in terms of short, achievable goals, which is really nice. I think having those targets, like, yeah, your first million is always a good target, certainly. I don't necessarily put time limits on these things because we all have busy lives. We all do things at our own paces, so it's not necessarily something you can always quantify. But some really good advice there. And then we have another set of advice here. Basically, diversifying is what's the key here. Using TSM because it will help you with your crafting and your reselling of things, especially with professions. This suggestion here, obviously, if you go to the cancel scan meta, you can actually make more sales, but only if you're prepared to sit there and do the cancel scanning. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as a method, but it does produce results, which is why people do it. If you can find some niche things that make you a lot of gold, that's always really good. Making time walking gear and epic TVC gems, making an insane amount of profit. So that was with the mage tower stuff as well. There was a lovely niche there, which I capitalised on. Tried and true methods of gold making, inserting yourself somewhere along the value chain. But this is quite good from the point of, like, are you going to farm the raw materials? Are you going to create the items themselves? Or are you going to make things like potions and see who needs what and how you can provide that service to them? Lots of stuff kicking off here on my sales. I mean, personally, they avoid gathering at all costs. I mean, I'm similar. I don't enjoy gathering, but plenty of people do, which is great because then I'll buy stuff off of them. It's a direct trade of time versus money when it comes to gathering. And then, obviously, their context is they've been using TSM making gold since mob, so, you know, some solid advice there, certainly from someone who's a long-time gold maker. And obviously, TSM really does help on this. So some really good advice there. If you go onto the Reddit itself, which I link to in each of these quotes here, you can see some more advice as well. But this is what I love about the gold making community is everyone just chips in and is very, very helpful. So that's the range of the economy blog for this week. So mainly, yes, the big sales of legendaries, you know, the millions and millions and millions. But don't forget, you are making sales anyway. As I've been talking, absolutely loads has been kicking off at the moment. This is just the sales since I've been doing this in the last 30 minutes. Nothing huge, just a few hundred here and there, but, you know, it's nice to see some regular sales. That's what's great about gold making. There's always something you can sell, and diversity means you've got more opportunities there. So in terms of my own gold making, I'll see how things go, focus on getting honoured next week on all my characters, and then diversifying my portfolio with the Crafter's Mark. Do as much legendaries as I can, one of each perhaps, that I can do at rank 7, depending on the price of the Progenitor Essentia. How's that looking at the moment? Yeah, it's a pretty solid 26,000 at the moment, so I can't see that going down anytime soon. Not a lot of it on at my server here, just a few here. And if you wanted to do a full set of tailoring gear, you need 2 per thing, so you need at least 16 just to do a full set of rank 7s for one set of tailoring gear. That's not to include the leatherworking, the mail, and the blacksmithing as well. And then you've got all the 262 gear as well, which needs 1 each, of which there's going to be a load of variety of those. So the supply and demand is a real bottleneck here. So it'll be interesting to see how prices settle over the next few weeks. I suspect a buff will be in order at some point. This is low numbers considering the demand. We'll see how it goes. I hope you've enjoyed this video for this week and you've been able to make lots of gold. Look forward to hearing your tales in the comments, and please do let me know how you've been getting on. Until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.